How's it going there, Facebook and YouTube? I'm Brian Stevens. You probably already know that if you're watching this. We're coming live to you from my studio, and this is the live room in my studio. We're going to do something really special today. To start things off, kind of let you know what's going on. The last couple of weeks, we've been really working on what hopefully is the last iteration of the web streaming setup all around the studio here. You might have seen it with the SSL tutorial review, but this is the live stream setup. We've got multiple cameras here, so I'm seeing you over there on that side. We've also got an old over-the-shoulder camera here that we're trying out, and then what drum video would be complete without the overhead cam? So we got all that stuff going, and I want to give a quick shout out and a thanks to this brand new technology. You have a short code key there for it. We're starting to use, today's our flagship day, our maiden voyage day, to use Ecamm Live here on the streaming rig. And we're trying it out live in front of you. Hopefully the audio's in sync. It was in sync earlier. But for years I've been using OBS, and a lot of you guys know that. I've been a big champion of that. I'm not a champion of it anymore. I'm using Ecamm, and so far it's been an amazing piece of software for us to use. So if you go to brianstevens.com/Ecamm, you can get a 14-day free trial if you're trying to do some web streaming. But that's not why we're here today. Why are we here today? We're here because I'm recording some drums. If you've been watching my socials the last few days, you've seen us getting ready for this session. If you don't already know, I've got a Patreon set up at patreon.com/Brian Stevens, and every week we're putting new content on there. Sometimes it's extras from podcasts, other times it's videos like the one that you're watching now. We also do some live web streaming, and we're giving you a preview of what that's like when I go live on Patreon and talk with the folks there and show them some of the stuff that we're doing in studio. There's also downloadable content that you can get as well. And the downloadable content that we're working on today specifically for Patreon is this new loop library songwriter toolkit that I'm putting together. And you're actually getting to see the capture session for that today. And so what we're doing, if you've seen any of the pictures in my previous posts, we've got this 1957 Gretsch round badge kit that's 3-ply shells, and that's the kick and the toms. We got a 22x14 13-inch rag tom, 16-inch floor tom, and I'll show you over here if you can see it. I'll get this advertisement out of the way. This snare drum is a 5.5x14 1957 WFL Ludwig. Buddy Rich model was, I think, might have had it in the catalog or something, but it's a very iconic snare drum, and we've got it set up, and all the cymbals I'm using are older, way older than me. So most of these cymbals are from the either early 60s, 50s. We've got kind of a mix of things, and then a very special set of hi-hats that I'm not going to tell you about, because if you find out what I'm using on the hi-hats, you'll go to eBay and you'll go scoop these things up, and I won't be able to get them for cheap anymore. So, but it's a great sounding set of real lo-fi, gritty kind of hi-hats. I won't go through the mic setup right now. I'll just put pictures up later on if you haven't seen them already. We really have two different microphone sets, one for the pretty sound that includes SM57 on top and bottom, usual kick drum mic stuff, my Session Ace overheads, which you don't see in this shot. Maybe do you see it in that shot? Nope. Don't see it in that shot. The Session Ace overhead mics. But then we've got a set of 3 vintage mics that you won't really hear them much today, but we're going to make some loops out of those as well. So what is the thing that we're making before I get to playing? It's a loop library that's going to consist of 2 and 4 bar loops and longer phrases, 8 and 16 bar phrases. That's a songwriter's toolkit. So if you're writing songs and you want something that's not drum machine programming or some really boring, get it off the shelf kind of loop library thing, this is perfect for you. You'll get entire phrases, so you could have an 8-bar phrase for one 8-bar phrase for a verse, one 8-bar phrase for a chorus. You have a slight variation for a verse 2 and a slight variation for a chorus 2. You can build an entire drum track that you can then write an entire song on top of. And that's the idea. So we'll have stereo mixes that you can use that are available on the Patreon. We'll also, for some of our upper tiers, have all the original source files in this Pro Tools session. And if you're not using Pro Tools, you can throw these files into anything. And so to give you a quick overview of my process when doing this, I don't really just turn a click on and just start playing stuff. Each of these packs has some kind of goal to it or some kind of aim. And this pack that we're putting out, or that we're going to be putting out over December, January, and probably into February, is a bunch of old sounds. We're going for old R&B sounds, things that you could use in any kind of production, but that just have that flavor, that vibe. That's why we're using the old drums. That's why we're using the old cymbals. And that's why we also have the vintage mics, so that you can put together some real grainy lo-fi, almost sounds like you got it off of an album kind of samples. So that's the gist of what we're doing today. If you got any questions or any comments, put them below and I can see them and I'll pop them up and I'll try and answer your questions as we go. Let's jump into this. So my process for doing this is I set up a track. I put some kind of track together to play to. And with this package, most of the tempos in this package go from 80 to around 100 beats a minute. And so I just pulled 2 of the tracks that I've been working on to play along with. And I usually start by playing something that would fit the track. So the parts that I'll play this first pass, and I usually do 2 or 3 of these passes. We won't have time for that today, but I'll do 2 or 3 passes. And I'll play something that sort of fits the vibe of the track. And then I'll go back and do a few passes of grooves that don't necessarily lock in terms of like bass drum patterns or any of that kind of stuff, but they're in the spirit of. So I may change the bass pattern, I may change the snare drum pattern, I may do something wacky with the hi-hats or the ride cymbal, and I'm just using the feel of the track to give me sort of a groove grid, so that all of these things, no matter what exact loop or longer phrase that you use, they all fit together. They've all got the same feel. It's just the components may be different. And so, yeah. So that's something to understand. The first few things I'll play will fit right with the track. Then I may play some things that don't. I'll do some samples of different fills. I'll just do fills, clean fills, we'll call them. And then usually in these kits, I also put some samples of the drum. So I think that's enough of me talking about this. Hopefully everything looks good and sounds good on your end. I'm going to turn off my talking mic and I'm going to play a little bit of drums. We'll let you hear this track first so you can see what we're cutting to, and then I'm going to play some drums. I'm also using the opportunity to listen to the track to make sure all the stuff's working and look at my notes about what I'm supposed to play. So here we go. So it's 2 different variations on that 8-bar phrase. I've got to get my form back into my mind while I'm doing this. And then we'll go into a verse here. Boom, boom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, boom. All right. So the tempo on this is 100 beats a minute, in case you're wondering. And the end of the 16-bar phrase. And then we'll do a couple rounds of that. Oh, there's a bridge in here. I forgot to put a bridge in this. Let's see what the bridge is. So I can write that down. Like I said, the first few passes, I want to make sure that I'm playing something that would fit with this track, so I really cement the feel. It helps inspire me to go some other directions with it. Oh, it's the same cut. I'll just treat it like a verse. think I put so many of these together in anticipation of doing this project. I don't even remember the exact form of all of them that I did. And then on the outro, yeah, I think that's 8 bars. Yeah. Car horn. So that's the signal that we're about to stop. All right, cool. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. I'll turn my mic off. Let's play one down, just see what happens. That's not bad for a first pass. I got a mic that's clipping. Hang on a second. Let me fix that. We changed some levels last night. At the very end, I think I changed something wrong. I made something not work right. Let's see. Vintage. Kick. Yes. Cut that trim back. That trim's killing. All right. So that's just... I'm not throwing anything away with this. I'm keeping everything. And in this case, I'm really just kind of looking at trying to get a feel, trying to get, let's do a new playlist. Good deal. I'm just trying to do something with the feel. And when I'm not talking about this, I rifle through these pretty quick. Real stream of consciousness, just play through. The main thing I'm trying to do is just really nail the feel of this stuff. And trying to cement the feel, get something that's going to easily loop. And let me do one other thing. I'll pull that click up just a little bit. Might be too loud for you, but I need a little bit more. Yeah, so one of the things that I'll do on this pass, I'll try and on this pass stay a little closer to the actual track. I veered off of it a little bit. I'm going to stay closer to the actual track, and my headphones keep cutting out. Let's see what's up with that. I think I'm sitting on something. All right, so let's give it one more try. See what happens. Yeah, there we go. Try to give you a few different. I think still blowing out. Try to give you a few different. Take the trim back again. A few different versions of the same idea, basically. A few different versions. So yeah, so if this were the capture session as we do it, we're not trying to do it for cameras. I'm not trying to cram a bunch into 30 minutes worth of time. I would go back and I do a couple more of those passes because every one of those is going to have something in it that I do that's going to be usable. Again, we're going to be chopping this stuff up and doing stuff with it. And then I would do one pass. You notice I just did all hi-hat with that. I'm going to do one quick pass with the ride cymbal and kind of get something happening with that. And then, yeah, from there, I would just do some isolated fills and some other, you know what, let me do a different thing. I'm going to do a pass that's just getting the feel of this track, but not necessarily playing to the music. Again, something that could be used in some other things. So let's do a new playlist. Yep. And so I'm going to do a whole new, and all I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to do a 4 on the floor. That's all I'm going to do. Just 4 on the floor, see what comes out, maybe with some hi-hat stuff or some ghosting stuff, and get a few different cymbal crashes so I've got versions of that. We're just going to do that. All right, here we go. Yeah, so that was just little variations on a 4 on the floor thing, mostly changing some hi-hat stuff, either tight, open, top, side. Just little variations. This is all about the nuance, just one little thing that's different. And so let's do a new playlist real quick. Yep. And then now I'm just going to, I'll make sure that thing is still clipping. So the next thing that I'm going to do, yeah, it's still clipping. Why is that still clipping? Probably still clipping because I trim it back. Or actually, let's do it at the input gain. 2.5. All right, and then go back up there. All right, yeah. So real quick, I'm going to take us through on another playlist, and I'm just going to go every few bars. I'm just going to put some fills. Let's see. Hey, Brian, Paul. Oh, dude, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Let's put your. Let's see if this comment goes up. Gamer, rocker, biker, kid. I dig that handle, dude. Yeah, thanks, man. We're just going through and just doing some sampling stuff. I mean, that's really all we're doing. What I'm gonna do real quick is I'm gonna just do some clean fills. So I'm gonna kind of go through the track and just whatever comes up, I'm just gonna put them somewhere in a phrase. So these are things that I can, if not I could splice in. Once I prep them, somebody else could, they could splice these things in as they're putting together their arrangement. So let's just kind of see what falls out. I'll just do a few of these. Yeah, so some of them had crash cymbal endings, some of them didn't. Ideally, once I prep all of these and get the fill portion of these seated right, then the idea with hitting a crash at the end of this is that it just makes it easy to splice that onto the beginning of the next phrase. Because the next phrase, it's all modular. So you've got a verse piece or a couple of things that make a verse piece, then you put in a fill in that last bar, and then the crash cymbal should be, because these toms are not going to have a lot of carryover past the next beat. So when I go dag-dagadoon, by that downbeat, this tom's gone. It's not ringing all the way through, so it makes it super easy to splice it. So yeah, I won't bore the YouTubes with this whole process. This whole process, though, really is this kind of tedious thing where normally I'm taking notes of everything I'm doing. So what is pass 1? What is pass 2? so I don't have to try and remember what that was when I go back in the editing process. So I'll keep copious notes. All right, so with that take, here's what I did. Here's what the vibe was. Here's what the vibe was for for playlist 2. And so I've got playlists of these in Pro Tools, so it makes it easier to go back later and cut stuff up and prep the pieces for the loop portion of the package, and then the songwriter toolkit portion of the package, which are the longer phrases, the 8-bar phrases, and the fill phrases. So yeah, I mean, that's how this stuff gets put together. This is one of those where in about 30 minutes, I'm trying to truncate the whole process for you. But this is usually a thing that we take a couple of days for, and that's pretty much the beginning of next week is just about 2 or 3 days of just doing that. Just spending time in here, putting a lot of stuff together I've got about 8 tracks that we're putting drums to. And sometimes, like I said before, sometimes the drums that I'm playing go right with the track. Other times, I'm just using it as a groove template. So what I'm going to do is, like with the 4 on the floor thing, the 4 on the floor thing might not fit that track. But that's okay, because the idea is whoever's writing on top of this is going to listen to the drums having never heard the track that I'm playing to. They don't know what music I'm playing to. They just know that there's this groove and this feel and this vibe, and here are the pieces that fit with what they're trying to do as they're playing guitar and writing, or as they're playing keyboards and writing. And since it's modular, and there'll be a lot of different options, you can, if you get to a particular part in the verse and you go, well, I need the pattern to change, you just look through the library and go, oh, there's a rhythm that fits, and you just stick it right in your DAW. That's the idea. It's a lot of plug and play kind of stuff. So that'll be, the first few of those will be available this month. Let's see, Pro Tools. Let's put Paul's comment up there. Yeah, so Pro Tools is the main software that I use. We've got every single platform here: Pro Tools, Logic, Studio One. You're gonna make me try to remember all these. Digital Performer, Reaper. I know I'm missing Reason, even though I don't do a lot of recording in Reason. Pretty much every major platform you can think of, we have here. But Pro Tools is what I live in. It's what I work in. It's what most of the industry on the professional side works in on the day-to-day, on the whole. But these files that we're putting together will work in any recording software. That's the great thing about them is when you get the stereo WAV files that are pre-mixed, you can just pop those into any DAW. And then with all of the native stem, not the stems, but the native tracks, where you've got all of the individual mics, including the vintage mics, they'll just be WAV files, mono or stereo WAV files. They're all time synced, so they all fit together right in the DAW. You just grab a group of them, pop them into your DAW at the correct tempo, and Bob's your uncle. You're off and running at that point. And again, since it's modular, everything that comes in a particular folder, like all of these will be in a folder, and then anything that's in a particular folder will work together. They were all cut to work together. That's not to say you can't borrow from other folders, but you just kind of sort of know when you get the package, all right, all 100 things in this folder are meant to go together. It's just a matter of how do I want to put them together. And because we're using the same, I'm not sure how many folders we'll have in the pack, but because everything was cut with the same mics and the same style and the same pre's, the same settings, it'll be more modular than some of the other packs I've done where you get a lot of different options. So that's the process. And hopefully I'm going to go back and look at, you can kind of see my setup, just a real basic setup with the old drums, the old cymbals, and you can kind of, I need a bigger table over here for all the technology. But yeah, so that's the process. If you've got any questions and you're watching this and it's not live, you're watching the tape version, just put the comments below and I'll come back and I'll answer them for you. I definitely want to let you know, if you're not already a member of the Patreon, patreon.com/Brian Stevens, we're doing weekly live streams like this where I'm actually talking to you. There's a chat box you can put comments in, kind of like you're putting comments in on social media. But since it's a small group of people, if we have a lot of questions, it's a handful of people that are leaving questions. It's not hundreds of people leaving questions or anything. So you don't get lost. Your question doesn't get lost. It always gets answered. There's also a Discord server there where you can also put those questions, and I usually get those. So you can just check it out. Go to patreon.com, right there at the bottom of your, there you go, the bottom left side of your screen. Go to the Patreon, and you can sign up for it, and there's already a ton of video content there. There's already the drum sample pack that's up there, and a lot of extras from the last few podcasts that I've done the last few weeks. And we'll start putting these up soon. So that's everything I got for you. I've got to get out of here so I can pack up some drums and go play a gig downtown. So if you're going to be downtown this evening, just take a look on social media. You'll see where I'm at and who I'm with. Playing with an amazing group of musicians that normally, when they're playing, they're not playing in town. They're touring the world. And thankfully, they've got a gig in town, and I'm going to get to play with them. So that's everything I got for you. Make sure you hit dialadrummer.com. We got a new podcast coming out next week. Fader Jocks will have a new podcast next week at Fader Jocks. Have fun and rock out. Dude, thanks so much, bro. I appreciate you. And get rid of that so we can see your comment. Yeah, I am going to have some fun tonight playing with some amazing musicians. Anyway, so hopefully that was helpful. You can kind of see a little bit of this process. Got any questions, let me know. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you. Later.